So hi guys, this is Bernhard from TANGO Racing in Vienna. Um, some people asked about the settings I'm using for the Simucube 2 Ultimate and iRacing. So it's a bit tricky and it's a lot to write. So I'm going to make a short video showing this. So this is Simucube 2 True Drive, latest version. That's a page to have the wheel centered, obviously. That's straightforward. Then I do have different settings for different simulations and sometimes also different cars. iRacing default is what I'm using most. I run, so this is the Ultimate, the strongest Simucube 2. If you have Sport or Pro, settings will be different for you. I run between 60 and 80% overall strength in the drive. I'm not using 100% because, in my opinion, even 60%, so 60 to 80, but even 16%, it's 18.8 Newton meter. That's more than enough not to run into clipping for regular driving forces. So, like what you feel when you drive the car, any car. Anything beyond 18 to 20 Newton meters, in my opinion, is relevant if you crash or have an accident, stuff like this. And the only benefit you have if I go here up till 100% is that when I have an accident, the forces on the wheel will be much stronger. And it just increases the possibility to get injured, so I'm not using this. So 60 to 80% overall strength, around 18 to 20 Newton meter. Steering range for iRacing default 1080. And bump stop feel medium. This is all the way how it feels when you go to the end. Medium, to me, it feels a bit like in a real car. So it's not like rock solid. It's not too soft. It's like you run into something. Bump stop range matching to the steering range. Simucube construction filter 2, torque band, unlimited. The most important settings I do play with regularly and change them a little bit. Those three: dampening around 15%, 10 to 15% dampening, 5 to 15% friction, 5 to 10% friction, and around 5 to maybe 10% inertia. So those three I change depending on if I like to tweak the feel of the force feedback in game. The rest I personally don't consider that important. Static force reduction off. This is like all off basically. Peak notch filter off. With those, you have to be careful. Most people you try to do something here, but actually most of them are inactive. In iRacing, I think only dampening is active. You have to start the simulation and see if there's coming a circle. Only if there's a sign for active, this is relevant and is doing something. Most of these things normally not active in the simulation. So sometimes dampening friction. Most of the time it's not active. I'm not, in general, I'm not using this. These are Simucube 2 Ultimate special settings. I'm not using those gamma setting. This is one, so it's linear and everything else is off. I played around with this. I couldn't, to me, it does not work properly. It's, I don't understand the implementation. Center dampening, I couldn't figure out that this is doing anything good. So I'm not using any of those. Otherwise, what do we have? No audible, no beeps and notifications. I have a little bit of centering strength. If you leave the simulation, the wheel is going to center itself. Just a little force, so it's not getting awkward. No hands-off detection. I do activate resonance reduction. I haven't experienced resonances, but yeah. And the USB things, not sure. if I didn't see any difference if I uncheck or check those. So these are the Simucube 2 True Drive settings. And within iRacing, first of all, you have to distinguish if you have the how you see the feedback strength in iRacing. There are two options. The original one is the default one is with this setting to 0, and you will see some numbers like 2 or 3. And I changed this to display linear in Newton meter, and then you have like a number in Newton meter. You change this in the app.ini. If you use the different setting, then you cannot compare my numbers at all. So be aware of that. And then in iRacing, we have to wait a little bit. I'm just loading a car in the circular track. But I do change the settings quite often, like based on car and which steering wheel I use, and also which setup I use. There are some setups they have much more force on the wheel than other setups, so you cannot just copy the numbers and think this is exactly you feel this the exact same thing I feel here, because it depends on many different things. So in iRacing, I put the wheel force to around, actually this is a bit too high, it should be between what I said in Simucube. So at the moment it was 18, so it should be at 18 to 20 Newton meters is the wheel force. And maximum force is what you see also in the car. And this is what I actually change in the car. So I start driving, and while I drive, I feel the steering feel and see how it feels. And the maximum force is set here. And while I drive, I have the buttons on the steering wheel for this. So I go to this setting, and then I change this setting according to what I consider is feels realistic in this car. It shows in Newton meter, and normally more Newton meter is stronger, but this is a very weird system. To be honest, I haven't really understood it full. There are some guys trying to explain this. Actually, I don't really care, but the lower this Newton meter, the more strength you have on the steering wheel. The higher the number of this Newton meter, the less feel you have on the steering wheel. And with this kind of cars, GT3 GT cars, I run between 89, 90 Newton meters to 120. Maybe 120, maybe 145. So between this 19 to 140, and that also depends on the setup. For example, the caster, if you run very high caster, you have much more strength on the steering wheel than with lower caster. So it depends on the setup and how much caster you run here, how much steering force you have. And if you don't have a power steering setting in the setup where you can like change this too, you will have more force feedback in the steering wheel. So this is one of the reasons why I might to adjust this. Another is if I run very small wheels with a small diameter, it feels much stronger than if you have a very large wheel with a large diameter. So this also is a reason when you want to change the max force here. Zero dampening, zero minimum force. I uncheck reduce force when parked. By default, this is checked, but then when you have the car standing, it steering wheel turns like there's nothing. I really don't like that. So I uncheck this. The downside, if you don't have the settings right, you might experience oscillation. So the steering wheel might start to flatter. or oscillate around. And so if this is the case, you have to increase a little bit the dampening. But I unchecked this, so when you sit in the car and it stands, you have a nice strong feeling in the steering wheel. No dampening on min force. Yes, I think that's about it. Linear mode, of course, if it's a direct drive. So those are my settings, and but as pointed out, I do change them based on the setup, car, steering wheel situation. So it's not that easy. So hopefully this was a bit helpful to some if you don't get it right. If the wheel oscillates, like go like this is what I mean. These three are the most important settings. So the first is the overall strength in relation to what you put in iRacing. That's the first big one. And then if you tone this down, it feels very reactive, and you feel everything. But the rear steering wheel, if there's like a bump, it's easy for the steering wheel to start oscillating like this. And so to me, some people, they prefer like no dampening, no friction. They say like, because this is all like reducing the feedback, the forces you feel. So they run with almost nothing of this. But then you run into this oscillation behavior, which I find this is a no-go for me. In a real car, you don't have that. So the moment I have that, I start to change these things. And for me, dampening around 10%, friction around 5%, 5 to 10, and dampening 10 to 15 is normally what I use. And inertia, not sure how you pronounce this, around 5%. So, and if you have a weird behavior in your steering wheel, these settings, they make a huge, huge difference. So start play with them. So hope that helped, and see you for one of the next videos. I'm heading to 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, normally I'm not asking you to do that, but it would be great. I'm looking forward to hit 1,000 subscribers, so that would be awesome. Thank you so much, and well, today's Saturday, so have a good Sunday.